Hello, guys and girls. It's me, your boy Cryptid. We're gonna see what Average Luck Gamer has to say about Zenless Zone Zero because they seem to think it has a huge problem. Let's get right into it.
This video is not for whales and dolphins. It's for you, because you are just like me. Average Light Gamer here, and today I want to discuss the future
Absolutely.
of Zenless Zone Zero and how Hoyoverse's newest game is probably going to be their best yet, but it's not without a pretty major concern right now. And
Let's see what could possibly be the concern in the game. Um, I personally, now don't take this the wrong way, I seem to feel like it's been kind of like a chore at the moment. Like I love the game, I love the characters, I love the gameplay. It's just seeming more chore-like compared to the other games I'm playing at the moment. I don't know if that's just me or if that's a common sentiment shared between anyone, but I wonder what he could be specifically talking about.
honestly, I was writing one script, and I decided at the last moment to change that to this video because it felt more worth talking about. So, for context, I recently started a new account on Zenless Zone Zero to see how the new player experience functioned now that
All right.
TV mode has been removed, and I live streamed the first few hours.
Which I gotta say, removing the TV mode was probably their best decision that they could have made because that I personally thought it was miserable to go through that whole TV experience.
And will continue to do so moving forwards. And as someone who always liked the direction and potential of Zenless Zone Zero's TV mode, I have to say it's better without it. The pacing
Oh,
feels much
100%.
improved. You get some extra EOS platforming sections. The puzzles
I
were
love
never
the
hard enough
mini
in TV
games.
mode to warrant the puzzle-like setup that we had. So it's not like the simplicity of the train section now, for example, is really a downgrade. Even though it is just running from A to B as EOS now, you can see how simple it is in the footage that I'm showing, over the top of this, but considering the way that feedback has been responded to, I only think this bodes well for the future of the game. Based on feedback from the player base, the dev team went back and amended their game. Not just moving forwards, but using that feedback to implement.
And them showing that they listen to their community is one of the biggest W's that they could possibly make because there are games by the same company, not gonna say who, but they don't take any consideration of how their player base feels or how to improve their game. They just kind of do what they do. If you don't like it, well, tough nuts. While Zenless Zone Zero, they're actually listening to their player base, trying to improve their game, make sure people like it, make sure people want to play it, which I honestly congratulate them for.
Change for the new player experience based on that feedback from existing players, and they didn't have to. They could have just adjusted current and upcoming content on that feedback, but they went back and changed what was already.
Yeah, they could have just said, screw the older content. We'll just work going forward because it's too much work to go backwards. But they didn't. They said new players deserve the best too.
Complete. And no, I don't think this is out the kindness of their hearts. 1.4 has been the biggest patch since launch, with long-awaited character Miyabi and free character Haramasa, so they expected a big bump in new players. And to prepare for that,
yeah.
they wanted the onboarding experience to be as smooth as possible to try and keep those players, as opposed to having them drop off because they didn't like the TV mode.
Which was
Ultimately,
big brain
the change was a business decision driven by profits and losses, and that doesn't make it a bad decision. Heck, driving engagement from the existing player base, bringing in new players, and getting a bunch of good press, both for the content added in 1.4 and the revamp of older content, can only be good for the game and its future. Yes, I would say so. And I think it's important to resurface that over-listening to feedback could be pretty dangerous. Imagine if a vocal portion of the player base began to not enjoy certain aspects of the game. Maybe they say the content is too hard at endgame, or heaven forbid, that the game has too much butt.
The horror.
Anyways. But the initial resistance to change the TV mode and attempts to rework it to make it faster actually bodes really well for the future of Zenless Zone Zero, because the feedback about TV mode has been roughly the same since the betas of the game. In other words, it's been the least popular part of the game for a very long time. So it's not like the rework and subsequent dropping of that mode wasn't a long time coming. And TV mode still hasn't been completely removed. You can still switch back over to it, and some side content does still use TV mode. So if you want to get all the rewards, you will still need to interact with it eventually, and hopefully we continue to see TV mode used in inventive ways in side content in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I liked where they were going with having the TV mode. I just don't feel like they implemented it in a way that really had people liking it and that really felt good to the people playing it. I felt like they had a vision and they just haven't been able to translate that vision into a fun product yet. So I'm glad that they're still working on the TV system and hopefully they can improve it and make it actually something the players can get on board about. But at the moment, having it side by side with the Bang Boo exploration thing, I feel like is a fantastic idea until they finally crack the code and they get to the end goal with the TV mode that they actually want.
And I guess this is where we start to think about the future of Zenless Zone Zero and the direction it will go. And don't worry, we'll get to the big problem in just a moment. Because here's the thing. I think that Hoyo are really in tune with the fanbase here, and I can't see them dropping the ball, hence the title of this video. For example, I don't think that Pulchro was ever planned to be a playable character, but considering the popularity, I could see them doing it based on how excited the fanbase seemed for that idea.
So warm.
And the hesitance to drop the TV mode from the story shows that they did believe in the idea and they tried to keep it. But then the feedback
Yes.
continued to still be mostly negative, and they ultimately corrected course, which, again, I think is the right play. Which leaves me so hopeful for the future of the game. Long term, I think Hoyoverse know that Zenless Zone Zero has to stand on its own 2 feet, and they need to put it into a position where it can succeed. Is there a chance that Zenless Zone Zero doesn't succeed, though? Yes. So there are ways that it could fail, but I don't actually think that Hoyoverse will allow it to. Honestly, their other 2 large games with Genshin and Honkai Star Rail are wildly successful.
They will pour everything that they feasibly have into making any game they have successful. Because if they let even one of their games, the big Hoyo-verse empire, if they let one of their games fail, it will be a huge blemish on their record that they will never be able to get rid of. Anytime they release a new game with a new IP, they will constantly have that riding their back, like, oh, is this actually going to be a good game or is it going to be a failure like XYZ? They have to, with all their might, keep Zenless Zone Zero afloat and keep from crashing. So they need to listen to anyone and everyone that could possibly improve their game because, like I said, it will be a blemish on their record that they will never get rid of. Anytime a new game will be referenced, a failure will always be right behind it.
So I don't think they will run short of budget. But like I said about ZZZ standing on its own 2 feet, they will want the game to bring in enough to justify that budget. The game needs to be successful on its own terms. And I do think that right now we're seeing the results of Zenless.
Exactly what he said. Even if it is going to be a failure, they need to have it make some sort of revenue. And I feel like right now Zenless Zone Zero doesn't have any problem with that because people love the characters. They're putting their all into the animations. And I feel like they really have a good fan base to center themselves on. I just feel like just them slightly improving upon things like the TV system will go a long way with that fan base.
Zone Zero correcting course as Hoyoverse aren't fully happy with its performance. Is it still making a bunch of money? Yes. And we as players don't really have to be worried about that much because it's not like the lights are going off anytime soon.
Yeah.
Hoyoverse is huge and they've invested a lot into Zenless Zone Zero, so I can't imagine them just not investing any more resources and letting Zenless Zone Zero fail to live up to its expectations. And as discussed, I do think that right now the development team are doing a fantastic job. The game is going from strength to strength and only getting better and better. But here's where the big problem starts. I think the biggest hump they need to get over is that once you're finished with the story content, there isn't that much to do. Sure, endgame modes now reset every week, and there are some events to check off, but it's missing that additional casual draw. And this is something friend of the show, Kete the Seventh, and I spoke about the other day. There is nothing to just chill with in Zenless Zone Zero. For example, Genshin and Wuwa have an open world to explore that can appeal to people who aren't even super into video games, whereas Zenless Zone Zero just has combat encounters, and that's fine for me.
So I get what he's saying about this, but in reality, it's just a gotcha game. Once you run out of the content for that short amount of period, you're not really supposed to be playing it 24/7. I understand he wants things to do. I feel like Zenless Zone Zero throws a bunch at you with events and in-game modes, especially because I play 3 different gotcha games, and I've been playing Marvel Rivals recently. So I've been playing 4 different games. Having a lot of that content be centered around Zenless Zone Zero, I feel like they just have a lot going on for a gotcha game. They have a lot of events, a lot of fun events, a lot of mediocre events. But I feel like they have great end game. I feel like they're doing great. I feel like they have a good amount of content. But no gotcha game should be played 24/7. Like, yes, Genshin and Wuthering Waves have open world, but even then, even with the open world, people don't play them 24/7. I mean, you can, but there's not really anything to do. Just because you're wandering aimlessly in an open world doesn't mean you're doing something. It just means you're wandering around collecting, you know? It doesn't necessarily mean anything. But I get what he's saying. He wants more content for the game he loves. I just don't think that's feasible for any gotcha game whatsoever.
I like playing the combat, trying out different
It's
teams,
not what
and
they're
completing
supposed
the
to
endgame
be.
combat stuff, but not all players enjoy that. Right now, I think this opinion is going to come across as wrong to most of Zenless Zone Zero's audience, because the players who have stuck with the game are likely the ones that enjoy the combat stuff, and are also quite happy that Zenless Zone Zero doesn't take up too much of their time. And to be clear, as a
Right.
player, that is the camp that I'm in too. Now, I think with the TV mode, what they were hoping for was that it would enable the development team to pump out a bunch of puzzles using the TV mode to keep players engaged and to potentially give a more casual audience something to do that isn't just harder and harder combat encounters. Remember, this is also a mobile game, but the mode wasn't appealing enough to retain a more casual audience, and it means that some players who did like the combat gameplay bounced off because of the TV mode. Now, hopefully those gameplay enjoyers come back following the 1.4 update, but the problem is the Zenless Zone Zero
I'm sure
still
they
needs
will.
something else in order to expand its market beyond what it already had at launch. And that's even if it did manage to recapture the players that it did have at launch. And this is the point where I say, I don't know what that is. I normally like to think of solutions to these kind of problems where I consider them, but everything I can come up with just doesn't really fit. Open world doesn't seem like a good fit for Zenless Zone Zero, and the best I can come up
Absolutely
with
not.
would be a shop management sim where you actually have to manage the video store in a much more in-depth fashion. But right now, it's missing something. And it could be that Hoyo is actually happy to just let Zenless Zone Zero be different combat encounters and a draw for current players to log in for 20 minutes a day, but it just means there's no additional draw for more casual players, and that means you end up with players long-term who are super dedicated.
I get what he's saying, and I really do. And I definitely feel like they're open to expanding their game to give you some sort of, I just want to burn some time at playing something fun in the game that doesn't necessarily involve combat. I'm down with the shop management system or things to that. Like, I feel like I do agree, if they add something to that effect into the game, it will boost its popularity. I just don't know what they can necessarily add that would resonate with a large amount of their community.
To min-maxing the combat, and players that are happy to spend a lot of money on the game. And that means that new players probably won't come in, and us free-to-play and low-spend players probably won't get much support. Which leads me to my final thoughts of, Hoyo are aware of this surely, and they won't let Zenless Zone Zero flounder and die. I'm not convinced that they're happy with how things currently are with Zenless Zone Zero's position, and I don't think they should be. But the way that they've reacted so far has been pretty great, so hopefully we'll see more developments soon. Anyway, what do you guys think? Let me know down below. If you're interested, another video of mine should pop up now. Am I overthinking this whole problem and Zenless Zone Zero is actually just the perfect second gacha in addition to a more time-demanding one? And that's the position that Hoyo want it to be in.
I feel like he is definitely onto something. Maybe instead of a shop system, if they could focus more on Bang Boo related content. People love this cute little guys. I feel like if they did something maybe with the tower defense system, if made a more, uh, I would say a more in-depth version, sort of like Bloons Tower Defense, but with Bang Boos, I feel like that would definitely pop off. It's definitely, it's something that would waste your time. People love tower defense games. If they just made a more in-depth version, because I feel like they had something with that. I just don't like it, you can only upgrade two different things. If they made like branching paths where you could upgrade Bang Boost to do different things instead of just, oh, I picked two upgrades and I can do those two upgrades. If they just made it a more expansive thing, uncap the limit of Bang Boos you could put on the field, make it a wave system to see how high you could go in the wave system. I feel like that would be the perfect thing to uh, captivate players. It's not combat focused, it's not super intensive, it's something fun to do. You can have it on one screen. If you have two screens, you could have one screen, do something else on the other, and you just sit there and think about it. Sorry, hit the mic. I feel like that would be great. Let me know about your suggestions down in the comments below if you have something else that you think would be great for the game, or if you like my idea, if you think they should expand on a tower defense system. But I feel like he's definitely onto something. I think that this game could be raised to the next level with something like that, now that I'm thinking about it.
Thank you for letting me rant a bit on this one and sticking with it till the end.
All right, and don't forget to like the video. Average Luck Gamer is fantastic. He makes great videos. I love them. Watched them for a while. Don't forget to like and subscribe on my channel and his. Thank you all for watching. Have a good one. Peace.